Halo, che, halo, increase, halo, halo, che, halo, che, halo, che, halo, 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 yes. Okay.
Hello, 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 hello.
Ladies and gentlemen, our delegates, I'm very surprised. Mike, 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 Mike. All right. I am very surprised we didn't give the crane performers a round of applause. Can we put together for crane performers? Ladies and gentlemen, you're most welcome. All right, I was just waiting to ensure this is working now perfectly. You're most welcome and thank you so much for joining us. We want in a very special way to recognize all our heads of delegation who are here. And I thought that the Ugandan delegation that is receiving our visiting delegations, we should put our hands together for all the visitors who are here for the Coffee Summit. And if you're seated near a visitor, please pick their contact, right? Or have a conversation. And I was looking at Dr. Ian Clark and wondering whether the neighbor is Ugandan. Then I noticed it's an ambassador. But in case you're seated with someone who's not been here before, if this is your very first time in Uganda, raise your hand. Just raise your hand. Your very first time in Uganda. Can we clap for them, those who are here for the very first time? You've come to the cradle of Africa. All right, and the cradle of civilization, the Permanent Secretary of Agriculture says, I am being careful, so I'm walking away from the heads of delegation of other countries and coming closer to my other African brothers and sisters. Welcome to the Pearl of Africa. Welcome to the land where you don't need any special soil anywhere to grow coffee. If you drive any distance away from where we are, you will find coffee growing, and great Ugandan coffee, depending on where you are, whether it's the highlands or the lowlands. And so we want to welcome you for this very great coffee conversation. We will have 3 days of excellent discussions and insights into the sector, what's happening at the continental level, and we have special guests from across the continent. But I know the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, who's our host today, will run through the protocols, but I want in a very special way to recognize the AU Commissioner in charge of Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment, who's representing the chairperson of the AU Commission, Your Excellency Ambassador Josefa Sako. We want to thank you so much for joining us. And also, His Excellency Mansour bin Salam, the Secretary General Organization of Southern Cooperation. We want to thank you for joining us and for being part of this G-25 Africa Coffee Summit. We have several stakeholders in this room and in the entire coffee value chain in Uganda, that of course is led by the Private Sector Foundation of Uganda, that is represented here by the Vice Chair and several other members of the board. We want to thank you for being here with us. We have all the key government agencies supporting the corporate sector, and later this evening we will also recognize our partners who supported the summit, and that will be done by the Executive Director of the Uganda Coffee Development Authority. We have the conference pack. If you haven't received one, one will be coming to you. It has all the profiles you need for the 3 conference and all the information you may need while you're here with us starting today. We will also later provide you the links where you can find all the video platforms where you can share with colleagues about the conference and the summit, the links to today's opening ceremony, and the links to the various discussions that will be happening and panel discussions. Very shortly, I will invite our host, Uganda Coffee Development Authority, and Ayako to speak to us, just to say hello, but also to recognize all the key people who are here in this room. And if you joined us a short while ago, we are offering only 3 languages. Only 3 languages are being provided today. If you need a gadget, and I suggest you try and get one, because one of our speakers will speak in Portuguese. And so we are translating from English on channel 2 into English on channel 2. So if you want English, that's channel 2, French channel 3, and Portuguese on channel 4. If you don't have a gadget, just let the ushers know. They are distributing those bags. You get a bag, you can ask for one of the gadgets for translation. That will be provided. In about 10 minutes, we'll have our dignitaries join us because, as you can see, our head of state has arrived, and very shortly they will be joining us in this tent. Thank you, crane performers. Thank you very much. Great performance. Great performance. Great performance. Thank you very much, great performers, and we want to thank you for entertaining us. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to this second G-25 Africa Coffee Summit here in Kampala, Uganda. We want to welcome you, the heads of delegation, and we want in a very special way to welcome the honorable ministers who are here from across the continent, our members of parliament, and the heads of different missions, and also the heads of government departments and agencies that are here this morning. Very shortly, their excellencies will be joining us, but before they join us, allow me run you through what will be the protocol for today. As soon as the heads of state join us, we will run through the anthems, and immediately our host minister, the Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, will recognize our visiting delegations and immediately run through the different speeches for the day. Later, there will be a guided tour of the exhibition by the heads of state, and immediately after that, the honorable ministers, our host minister, and the IACO team will be addressing the press, and then lunch will be served to all our delegates. I want to now take the pleasure of inviting the Managing Director, Uganda Coffee Development Authority, Dr. Emmanuel Yamlemye, to come and make welcome remarks. Doctor, can we put our hands together for Dr. Emmanuel Yamlemye?
The members of Diplomatic Corps, Your Excellencies, Her Excellency the Commissioner of Agriculture in the African Union Commission, honorable ministers present, honorable ministers from other African countries, the chairman of the Inter-Africa Coffee Organization, the Secretary General of the Inter-Africa Coffee Organization, the presidents of the Agency of Robusta Coffee of Africa and Madagascar, ACRAM, the Executive Director of African Fine Coffees Association, AFCA, invited delegates from Africa and other regions, and in particular, our brothers and sisters from Guatemala and Panama, distinguished delegates, the media, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this second G25 Africa Coffee Summit in Kampala, Uganda, after the first one, which was held in Nairobi, Kenya, on May 25th last year, under the theme, Sustainable Development and Economic Growth in African Coffee Sector. During the first summit, ministers from 25 African coffee-producing countries signed the Nairobi Declaration, which would be submitted to the African Union to include coffee as an anchor commodity in the African Union in harmony with the African Union Agenda 2063. We are very optimistic to see that what has been achieved during the last year, especially the first milestone of including coffee as a strategic commodity African Union Development Agenda. On the domestic scene, the government of Uganda has been doing a lot in line with the coffee roadmap, in line with what we'll be discussing the next 2 days. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this summit is transforming the African coffee industry through value addition, and is therefore not only topical, but also very timely and very relevant. Specifically, this summit is expected to address the following issues. 1, investment in value addition. African countries have continued to export coffee as a raw material in green beans due to raw investments in value addition. There is a need to consolidate efforts towards investments in value addition through strengthening public partnerships initiatives. We need to invest in new technologies, including digital marketing and blockchains. We need also to be promoting domestic coffee consumption in our own countries so that all these investments, we can create jobs and incomes. We have an aspect of unlocking untapped markets within Africa. And I want to thank our political leaders for having seen it wise to look at the African Continental Free Trade Area. This is the largest trading bloc in the world, and we can not only take advantage of this trading bloc, but a commodity that unites many of the African countries. Lastly, we will be discussing about boosting production and productivity. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you again in Uganda. And this particular, I would like to register my unwavering appreciation for the support we have received in organizing this summit. I thank you very much. I would like in particular to thank all our partners who have supported the G-25 summit, which was headed by the National Organizing Committee. And I would like to thank in particular my own Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, who took it upon himself during the first summit to accept to host this summit. But also my other ministers who have been all very supportive, and my permanent secretary, I cannot thank you enough. The Secretary General of Inter-Africa Coffee Organizations, who had endless meetings, and today we'll be celebrating the achievements of what we have been working for. But also the Minister of Foreign Affairs, we are very happy with the organization, the leadership we have provided, and we want to thank you for making all the protocols followed. The Private Sector Foundation Uganda, you are our brothers in this, and we want to thank you for organizing the private sector, and in particular, the coffee fraternity. The European Union delegation in Uganda, we want to thank you, especially the ambassador, for having traveled in Uganda on Sunday, and this is your first activity. We want to thank you. The United Nations Development Program, they are well represented here. We want to thank you. The Organization of Southern Cooperation, the Secretary General is here. We want to thank you. The ABI Development, the USAID Feed the Future, but also our own, the Uganda Coffee Federation, the African Fine Coffees Association, the Uganda Coffee Farmers Alliance, Besmark Coffee, Ibero Coffee Limited, New Bukumbi Coffee, Outspan Enterprises, DFC Uganda, and Centenary Bank. I would end not only by thanking my team, Uganda Coffee Development Authority. I know you have all worked very hard in different corners, and I want to thank you. Dear delegates, feel welcome in Uganda. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we can do better than that. Another round of applause for the Managing Director, Uganda Coffee Development Authority. Thank you very much. I now take the pleasure of inviting Ambassador Solomon Rutega, the Secretary General of the Inter-African Coffee Organization, IACO, to make his remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Ambassador.
Thank you, Master of Ceremonies. Honorable ministers, heads of delegations from the G-25, the ambassadors, heads of mission, members of the diplomatic corps, members of parliament from the Ugandan parliament, members of the Ugandan cabinet, the members of the private sector association, and invited delegates, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the member states of the Inter-Africa Coffee Organization, I would like to convey our gratitude to President Yoweri Museveni and his government for accepting to host the second G-25 Africa Coffee Summit. Uganda is the birthplace of Robusta coffee, so this is really a great honor for the country. A hand of applause for the Ugandan government and leadership. Yeah. The G25 Africa Coffee Summit has given AYACO a political instrument to address the underperformance of the coffee sector on the continent for decades. We embarked on our journey to reevaluate the overall performance of the coffee sector at our first G25 Africa Coffee Summit, which was kindly hosted by the government of the Republic of Kenya in May 2022. The inclusion of coffee as a strategic commodity in the AU Agenda 2063 and the designation of AYACO as an AU specialized agency responsible for coffee to work with the African Union Commission will be a great milestone in the development and integration of the African coffee sector. The issues we will tackle at this summit will include the future of the African coffee industry under the AFCFTA, financing options for value addition, lessons for coffee value addition, production and productivity in the African coffee region and sharing regional experiences in creating a coffee culture in Africa, the role of research in value addition, strategies to promote value addition and access to new markets, accelerating the implementation of the Africa Coffee Standards under the AFCFTA framework, accelerating the role of digitization and new technologies in value addition, the role of women and youth in the value addition chain, emerging issues in the coffee industry, the impact of the European regulations on the African coffee sector, the impact of climate change on the African coffee sector. I'm very optimistic that we can transform the African coffee sector through value addition. We have a huge untapped market on the continent. Together, we can fulfill our goal by promoting domestic consumption and opportunities for our youth and women. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the member states who've traveled from afar. I also would like to take this opportunity to thank the Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank the Uganda Coffee Development Authority and also thank the Secretariat of the Inter-Africa Coffee Organization for a job well done. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Ladies and gentlemen, may we be upstanding to receive the President. Your Excellencies, you're welcome. You're welcome to the G-25 Africa Coffee Summit. You're most welcome, Your Excellencies. May we remain standing, ladies and gentlemen. We'll remain standing, ladies and gentlemen, and shortly I will be requesting the Uganda Police Force Brass Band to run us through the two anthems. So we will wait for the principals to settle in. Let's remain standing and have the anthems. We'll start with the Uganda National Anthem. Police Brass Band. Your Excellencies, you may take your seats. And our delegates, please take your seats. Your Excellencies and the heads of mission who are here, Your Excellencies, the ambassadors, the heads of government agencies represented here, and all the coffee friends gathered here for this second G-25 Africa Coffee Summit. On behalf of the Inter-African Coffee Organization and on behalf of the Uganda Coffee Development Authority, I want to welcome you all to this summit. I now want to take the pleasure of inviting our host and director of ceremonies, the Minister of Agriculture and More Industries and Fisheries of the Republic of Uganda, the Honorable Frank Tumwebazi, to run us through the protocols and the rest of the program. You're most welcome, sir.
His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, our host and the President of the Republic of Uganda, Her Excellency Saleh Work Zewde, President of the Federal Republic of Ethiopia, His Excellency Dr. Philip Isidore Mbago, the Vice President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Her Excellency Jessica Lupo, the Vice President of Uganda, His Excellency Musalia Mudavadi, the Prime Cabinet Secretary of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Dr. Girma Amente, Chairman of the Inter-African Coffee Organization, Minister of Agriculture of Ethiopia, Honorable Ministers representing the various heads of state and leading the delegations, Honorable Ministers of Uganda and Honorable Members of Parliament, Your Excellency the Ambassadors, heads of coffee organizations, exporters and private sector, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency and the Excellencies, allow me to quickly introduce to you the countries participating here and their leaders. I'll mention the ministers. We have Honorable Juan Jose Ndogo Tomo, Minister of Agriculture, Livestock and Rural Development, Republic of Equatorial Guinea. I hope you can stand up and wave to His Excellency and the Excellencies. We have Honorable Adedeze Kodijo, Minister of Trade, Industry and Local Consumption, Republic of Togo. We have Honorable Antonio Francisco de Assisi, Minister of Agriculture and Forestry, Republic of Angola. We have Honorable Sam Daristo Kawale, Minister of Agriculture, Republic of Malawi. We have Honorable Tayeb Zitoun, Minister of Commerce and Export Promotion, People's Republic of Algeria. We have Honorable Dr. Anxious J. Masuka, Minister of Lands, Agriculture and Fisheries, Republic of Zimbabwe. We have Ambassador Ale Toure, representing the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire. We have Honorable Ildefonse Musafiri, Minister of Agriculture and Animal Resources, Republic of Rwanda. We have Honorable Marie Chantal Nijimbere, Minister of Commerce, Transport, Industry and Tourism, Republic of Burundi. We have Honorable Paul Valentin Ngobo, Minister of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries, Republic of Congo. We have Honorable Luch Magoroi Mbaga Atangana, Minister of Commerce, Republic of Cameroon. We have His Excellency Yusuf Mondoha Asumani, Ambassador of the Union of Comoros in Ethiopia and permanent representative to the AU. We have His Excellency Masur bin Musalam, Secretary General, Organization of Southern Cooperation. We have His Excellency Ambassador Josefa Korea Sako, the AU Commission in charge of Agriculture and Rural Development, Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment, representing the chairperson of the AU Commission. We have His Excellency Jan Sadek, head of delegation of the European Union in Kampala. We have His Excellency Innocent Ejolu, head of Partnerships and Innovation, UNDP. Your Excellency of Kenya and all the other G25 countries for having accepted Uganda then when we put in our bid to host the second African Coffee Summit. We thank you. Your Excellencies and distinguished delegates, the theme of this year's summit is transforming the African coffee sector through value addition. This is both guided by the vision of our leader, who has always given us instructive guidance on the need to add value to coffee so as to be able to get much value from it and transform our economies. It is also in line with the theme of the 2023 African Union Agenda that focuses on accelerating the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area. This theme recognizes the importance of transitioning Africa from raw material supplier to a processor and or a trader of value-added products. Your Excellencies, at the end of this summit today, we'll have a declaration signed, which would be putting on paper and on record the commitment of all the G-25 to marshal support and to inform the other members of the African Union that we can all win if we trade our coffee collectively and add value to it, and also fight for the right classification of our specialty coffees, because these coffees are born and birthed and innovated from Africa. Your Excellency, allow me to invite the Vice President of the Republic of Uganda to say her remarks, and thereafter invite you to open the summit. Once again, welcome and feel at home. Uganda is the true part of Africa.
Your Excellency General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, Your Excellencies, heads of state and delegations present, Honorable Commissioner for Agriculture at the African Union Commission, members of the Diplomatic Corps, honorable ministers from African countries present, the chairman of Inter-Africa Coffee Organization, the Secretary General of Inter-Coffee Organization, the Executive Director of Coffee Organization, all dignitaries present in your various capacities, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome all delegates to this second G-25 African Coffee Summit in Kampala, Uganda, the Pearl of Africa and the birthplace of Robusta coffee. Coffee is an important crop here in Uganda and continues to be one of her main cash crops. The crop is grown on an estimated 583,000 hectares of land by about 1.8 million smallholder farmers, some of them being female-headed families. More than 9 million people in Uganda are estimated to derive their livelihoods from coffee-related activities along the value chain. Hence, it is strategic positioning in the National Resistance Movement Manifesto 2021-2026. Your Excellency, in financial year 2022-2023, which has just ended, Uganda earned US dollars 845 million from export of 5.8 million 60-kilogram bag of coffee, up from 3.5 million 60-kilogram bags 7 years ago, due to government's deliberate effort in coffee replanting. We thank the farmers of Uganda for embracing the government programs, especially those of agriculture. Your Excellency, as I come to the conclusion of my remarks, Coffee is one of the commodities that stands to benefit from the African continental free trade area that hinges on leveraging on the comparative and competitive advantages of African countries. Under the Parish Development Model, Your Excellency, coffee is one of the strategic enterprises, and we expect that it will contribute significantly to elevating our people from poverty while applying the 4-acre model in the NRM manifesto. In line with the theme of this year G-25 meeting, i.e., transforming the African coffee sector through value addition, and as Your Excellency, you have always advised, we are making significant efforts to add value to our coffee so that we stop exporting wealth and jobs. The G25 summit is a very good platform to discuss value addition of coffee in Africa, and Uganda is committed in this direction. Let me congratulate the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industries and Fisheries on successfully hosting this summit. Ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, it is now my singular honor and privilege to invite His Excellency General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the President of the Republic of Uganda, to officially open this summit. Your Excellency, the floor is yours now.
Your Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Ethiopia, Your Excellency, the Vice President of Tanzania, the Right Honorable Excellency, Right Honorable Mudavadi, the Prime Minister of Kenya, Honorable Ministers, the Vice President of Uganda, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I welcome you most warmly for agreeing to have this conference in Uganda. Thank you so much. Karibu sana. Robusta coffee, what we call emwanyi, is indigenous to Uganda. And in the past, we used to use it to perform ceremonial functions, religious functions of brotherhood and so on. Coffee is not a food, but a beverage. Although I hear it has also got some carbohydrates and some proteins. So there's some element of feeding in it. But nevertheless, that beverage is quite useful as a stimulant that is friendly to the human body. Especially people in the cold countries need this stimulant. I was trying to find out from the doctors, what does coffee add to the human body? And they told me that because it stimulates the body mechanisms, it therefore improves appetite. That's what I was told. I don't know whether it is true or not, but one of the people told me this. So it is some sort of appetizer, apart from stimulating the body, the heart, the blood circulation, and so on. it is the richer people, apparently, in the world that can afford to buy coffee. We here in Uganda didn't know that coffee was a rich man's beverage. Because we have it here, we take it for granted. But when I went to other countries, they said, no, for us, we can't afford coffee. We drink tea. Apparently, people with less incomes tend to drink tea, another beverage which we produce a lot here in Uganda. Some years ago, the global demand of coffee was 118 million bags, 60 kilograms. 118 million bags of 60 kilograms each. I hear that the global demand has now gone to 160 million or more, 60 kilogram bags. Why? Apparently, as already pointed out above, affluence converts some of the tea drinkers into coffee drinkers. Therefore, I hear that Chinese who used to drink tea, because they have more money now, they drink coffee. That's why the demand is going up. And that's why I have been encouraging Ugandans to grow coffee. Otherwise, if it had no global demand, I wouldn't encourage them. I would discourage them. This trend will therefore be good for the coffee producing countries like Uganda. The fact that the demand for coffee is growing should be good for us, we here, and those who are not here, the Brazil, Colombia, all those other people, Vietnam, Indonesia, etc. However, out of the US dollars, 460 billion global coffee value. The coffee producing countries of the whole world, we here and those who are not here, only take US dollars 25 billion. That's where there is a problem. The coffee value in the world, 460 billion. But all the coffee growing countries of the world, they share only $25 billion. And Africa, we who are here, we get only US dollars 2.4 billion. $2.4 billion out of a business of $460 billion. Uganda takes $845 million of this. Of the 2.4 billion, Uganda takes more than 1/3 because of the volumes we produce here. Now, this is part of the iniquities of the present global parasitic system. The present global system is parasitic, a parasite to those raw materials and get much more value from them. For the last 60 years and more, I have been involved in struggle against all this. A kilogram of bean coffee of good quality may go for US dollars 2.5 billion to $2.5 a kilo of good quality. They call it something, some Q something. They give them some names. You may get $2.5. The same quantity of coffee, roasted, ground, and packaged outside, may go for US dollars 40. For what Africa gets $2.5, somebody else gets $40. This is where there is massive hemorrhage of money from the global south to the global north. It is not only the loss of money per kilo, it is also the loss of jobs, because these are jobs. The one who roasts is a job. The one who grinds is a job. The one who packages is a job. All those jobs are exported. If you take the whole, now this is in one area of coffee, but if you take the whole spectrum of raw materials from agriculture, from minerals, from forest products, etc., the loss to Africa is massive. Right from the student days in our movement in the 1960s, we put forward the strategy of building Uganda's economy as an independent, self-sustaining one, with both vertical and horizontal integration. That's what we identified in the 1960s when we were part of the student movement. Here in Uganda, we have succeeded somehow in some sectors, such as the dairy sector, the milk sector. Uganda now is a big exporter of milk products. Fisheries, textiles, sugar, leather, etc., a number of sectors where we have been able to achieve this. Vertical integration and horizontal integration. And that's how, like, as we speak today, inflation in Uganda had gone to 10-point-something% during Corona. Our inflation rate had gone to 10-point-something. And these Ugandans were panicking that they don't have bread from Ukraine and Russia. I said, why do you eat bread? Eat cassava, forget about bread. Now inflation is 3.9%. It has come down. I don't know in other countries, but here the inflation has come down, partly because of this, where we have achieved some degree of vertical and horizontal integration. If, for instance, you say that you have got a tourism industry, but all the food the tourists eat is imported, there is no linkage. There is no horizontal linkage between the tourism and your agriculture. This is where there would be a problem. But in Uganda, we produce a lot of food, and that's how I think somehow there's a linkage between the tourism sector and agriculture. However, in many sectors, including the coffee sector, we are still losing a lot of money and jobs on account of this distortion. That is why I banned completely, some years ago, the export of unprocessed minerals. I banned them. I'm not popular in some areas. I'm not popular in some areas, but God is my savior. I'm not bothered. There was one Indian group which came and linked with my people here. They had made a deal to export iron ore, iron ore from the ground. Iron ore from the ground is soil. So these people had agreed to export to India iron ore. How much will you get, sirs and madams? We shall get $47 per ton of iron ore. When the Indian takes the iron ore and processes it into steel in India, how much does he get? He gets like now, I think now it's like $700. Now. At one time it had gone to 900, then it came to 500, 600. So you have got these wonderful Ugandans exporting our iron ore for $47 a ton, and then somebody is going to get 600, 700 from the same iron ore. There is some little variation in the calculation, because when you process 1 ton of iron ore, our iron ore is very high grade. It's the best in the world. So if you process 1,000 kilos of iron ore, you get 700 kilos. So in order to get 1 ton, you need to add more, some little, we call it chibaro in our language here, calculation. But the loss of value is huge. And remember, this person, you are not only losing money, you are losing jobs. The people who will be manning the steel factories in India will not be my grandchildren. It will be the Indian children. So how can we have something like this in Africa and we tolerate it? So that's why I banned completely, some years ago, the export of unprocessed minerals such as iron ore, blister copper. Blister copper is 94% pure. Uganda in the past used to export this type of copper. 94% copper, 94% pure copper, they call it blister copper. But here we had a situation where we were exporting this blister copper up to Mombasa, and yet we had some factories here making cables for electricity. And some factories which wanted to make transformers for electricity. But they couldn't use this blister copper because it is not pure enough. So the blister copper had to be exported out. And then our wonderful planners were now to wait for imported cathode copper. The cathode copper is the one which is 99 point something pure. This is the one you can use now directly in the cables and in the transformers. So here we had copper, but our copper had no linkage with our cables industry, had no linkage with our transformer industries. You wonder, how can Africans accept this? So I stopped all this. I said, if you are not ready to process, let it stay in the ground. It has been there for 2 million years. It can stay there for another 100 years until you are ready to process it yourselves. Wolfram, tin ore, lithium. There's now a new war for lithium. Your brothers and sisters here in Uganda have woken up. They are now making, manufacturing electric vehicles, buses, small cars. They are making them because they are highly educated. If you ask these people, they are very highly educated. PhD, I don't know what. So they have woken up now. They are using their education to produce. But now the issue you have is the one of electric batteries. And I hear lithium is one of the inputs to make electric batteries. So we have got lithium here. I said, no lithium will be exported. You make the electric batteries here, if you are my friend, and export those. Why do you want to export low value and you get more value? Uranium, ETC. We have got a lot of uranium here. You have heard of the quarrels going on in Niger. There is a crisis now in an African country known as Niger. I think some of our friends from West Africa know it better, Togo and Cameroon, they know it better. You have heard of the quarrels going on in Niger, in West Africa, about uranium being taken to Europe. That's how I came to know recently. When this crisis started, we started getting information that apparently Niger is exporting a lot of uranium to Europe and to France for them to use in their nuclear power stations to generate electricity for themselves. So this morning I took interest. I said, by the way, what is the electricity supply in Niger? Before you sell uranium to the other person, how about you? What's happening to you? Now I found, I was told, there is a measurement they call kilowatt hour per capita. Kilowatt hour per capita. Apparently, the kilowatt hour per capita of electricity in Niger is 51. 51. Every person in Niger is using 51 kilowatt hour per capita. The GDP of Niger is US dollars 613. Now, here in Uganda, our kilowatt hour per capita was very low, was like this some years ago, was as low as this one of Niger. But now it's about 300, still very low, but that's where it is. Then how about the United States? What is the kilowatt hour per capita of the United States? 12,000. And there's a country called Iceland. It has got a lot of electricity. Of course, they have got a smaller population, but it is 54,000. Now, Uganda has got a lot of uranium. Some years ago, a Western company came and proposed to mine the uranium. They came here, said they want to mine the uranium. I asked them, mine it and take it where? They said, export it. That was their answer. I asked them, export it for what purposes? They told me, for the purposes of generating nuclear energy, for electricity, and other uses such as medicine, vector control, etc. I then asked them, have you heard a rumor that there are some human beings here in Uganda who need electricity, who need nuclear medicine, and who need vector control services? I asked them, you want to take the uranium, but have you heard a rumor that there are some human beings here? It's not confirmed that they are there, but could it be a rumor that there are some human beings here? Why don't you propose to build that capacity here for the benefit of these human beings who live in Uganda? And maybe we can put aside some quantity of uranium for supporting the economies of our friends in the West. After that, after you have addressed my issue, I can also share with you so that you also go and solve yours. But to tell me that you solve my problems and forget yours, I cannot accept that. They never came back. They never came back. So the uranium of Uganda is sleeping in the ground until we are ready to use it. We have now agreed with the Russians and the Koreans to build 2 nuclear power stations for electricity of 15,600 megawatts total. Imagine, just 2 stations will produce 15,000 megawatts. One, 7,200 megawatts, the other one, 8,400 megawatts. Our biggest dam on the Nile is the Karuma with 640 megawatts. The hydro. The biggest opposition of our plan of building an integrated national economy has been mainly internal, from some elements of the political and bureaucratic classes who performed the role of comprador bourgeoisie, agents of foreign interests Mao Zedong talked about in China. Unlike the national bourgeoisie, who build our economy, the comprador bourgeoisie, raw material exporters, importers of foreign products that can be made here, commission agents, bleed our economy. The national bourgeoisie, who are manufacturers, hotel owners, tourism operators, professional service providers, such as doctors who treat people here instead of patients going out for treatment, internal distributors of our products, such as food, build our economy. There are businesses which build our economy, which infuse blood into our economy. There are those businesses which drain blood from our system for the benefit of the outsiders. And these are the ones Mao Zedong called the comprador. Comprador is a French word meaning agent, agent of. Therefore, we, the raw materials producers, need to conduct internal struggles in our respective countries to add value to these raw materials, including coffee, so that we earn more from our sweat and create more jobs for our youth instead of dying in the Mediterranean going to Europe. We also need to sensitize our partners in the countries that have been buying our raw materials at same slave prices, that their economics is defective. What will the USA or Europe or Asia lose if Africa sells added value coffee to them instead of the raw materials, of the raw material form, and earn more money? What if the value addition is done to other raw materials like copper, gold, iron ore, lithium, etc.? Money to Africa will mean higher purchasing power for Africa. The Africans who now lack electricity will be able to afford to pay for electricity. Where will the turbines come from, the ones for generating the electricity? Will they not come from Europe, USA, Russia, China, or from other partners? So what we are proposing by adding value to our raw materials will mean putting more purchasing power in the hands of the Africans. But there is a page, I jumped in my speech. Allow me not to leave it out. Now, because of this hemorrhage from Africa, because of these raw materials, that's why the economy of Africa is stunted. African economy is stunted. I had jumped this, very sorry, very sorry. That's why the economy of Africa is stunted. Somebody from stunted growth is somebody who can't grow. The GDP of the whole massive African continent, with a population now of about 1.5 billion people, is US dollars 2.7 trillion. What are the GDP sizes of other much smaller individual countries? Here below are some examples. USA, 25.5 trillion. Africa, 2.7 trillion. USA, 25 trillion. China, 17.9 trillion, almost 18 trillion. Japan, $4.2 trillion. Germany, $4 trillion. India, $3.38 trillion. Even little South Korea has a GDP of US dollars 1.7 trillion, nearing the size of the African GDP. It must be pointed out that even this US dollars 2.7 trillion is a recent development because the African economies are said to be growing at a fast rate compared to others in the world. Otherwise, Africa's GDP was only 500 billion some few years ago. However, much of that growth may be quantitative, not qualitative, producing more and more raw materials. Sorry, I had jumped that page in the speech. Therefore, as I conclude, I was beginning to ask the question, if Africa gets more money from value-added products of its raw materials, will it not be better for the whole world? Because if you hear the per capita consumption of electricity in Uganda is 300. In the USA, it is 12,000. Why are the Ugandans not using electricity? Because, first of all, in the past it was not there. But even when it's there, they may not be able to afford it. But if they get income, because they are getting more money from their coffee, getting more money from their iron ore, getting more money from their copper, they will be able to buy the electricity. And we shall be able to generate more electricity. Where will the turbines for generating that electricity be coming from? Uganda is not making turbines yet. We shall have to buy them from those people. So therefore, that's why I was asking, the question was, how can greed obscure rationality to such an extent? Why can't people see what is good for all of us? In conclusion, I propose to say that global affluence will benefit everybody. Down with imperialism, down with the parasitism, long live the win-win strategy. With these not so few words, I declare the conference opened. Thank you very much.
You've paused. Thank you once again. With your permission, Excellency, we're now going to go into a session of brief statements from their excellencies and heads of delegations. We'll have a statement from His Excellency Dr. Girma, the chairman of the Inter-African Coffee Organization. Your Excellency, we have the Inter-African Coffee Organization where the G25 meet, share experience, and collectively plan to act together. Your Excellency, you're welcome.
Your Excellency, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, Your Excellency Sahle-Work Zewde, President of the Federal Republic of Ethiopia, Your Excellency Dr. Philip Isdor Mpango, Vice President of United Republic of Tanzania, Your Excellency Musalia Mudavadi, Prime Cabinet Secretary, Republic of Kenya, Your Excellency Vice President of Uganda, Your Excellency Ambassador Joseph Asako, AU Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy, and Sustainable Environment, Honorable Ministers, Ambassadors, representatives of development partners, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, all protocols observed. On behalf of member states of the Inter-African Coffee Organization and the Ministry of Agriculture of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, I would like to convey our appreciation and gratitude to His Excellency President Yoweri Museveni and his government for hosting the second G25 African Coffee Summit here in Kampala under the theme Transformation of the African Coffee Sector through Value Addition. I would also like to thank the head of states, governments, ministers, and distinguished delegates for your presence here today. This is a testament to solidarity and commitment to pursue our common goal to find solutions for the development of the African coffee sector. For centuries, coffee has been a source of inspiration, a catalyst for conversation, and a symbol of hospitality. Moreover, it has been a valuable economic commodity that supports the livelihoods of millions in our continent. The G25 African Coffee Summit was created on 18 November 2021 under the auspices of the Inter-African Coffee Organization to re-evaluate the overall performance of the coffee sector in Africa. Following the first G25 African Coffee Summit held in Nairobi last year, some progresses have been registered, though works are ongoing. Some of those instances of ongoing works are: 1, the Nairobi Declaration has been submitted to the African Union Commission and is waiting to be adopted by the AU Special Technical Committee for presentation to the AU Heads of State Assembly for approval and inclusion in the AU Agenda 2063. 2, the African Continental Free Trade Area and the African Organization for Standardization has set up committees to promote value addition and harmonize coffee standards that are required for interregional Africa trade, and the new IACO agreement is in its final phase for ratification, which is expected to bring together all the African coffee producers, consumer states, and the private sector under a unified platform. 3rd, several coffee houses and training institutes have been opened in member states together with cupping sessions, barista championships, which have led to more coffee awareness and job opportunities for youth. I would like to appreciate the work being done by the Secretariat and commend the leaders of the G25 member states for their commitment to come together to find common grounds on the regional challenges facing the African coffee sector. Excellencies, Africa now has the political will and legal instruments such as the historical African Continental Free Trade Area, which is the world's largest free trade area, bringing together the 55 countries of the African Union and 8 regional economic communities. In addition, AU's flagship project in the African Union Agenda 2063 aimed at building transport infrastructure, air and rail, combined with the Nairobi Declaration that demanded the inclusion of coffee as a strategic crop in the AU's Agenda 2063 are expected to open a lot of opportunities for the development and empowerment of youth and women across the value chain. Aside from the fact that Africa is the birthplace for coffee, Robusta coffee in Uganda and Arabica coffee in Ethiopia, the livelihood of at least 60 million people across the continent, it only accounts for 12% of the world's coffee production. There is also huge inequality in the value chain, as it is already indicated by His Excellency the President, which could be explained by the fact that Africa obtained only 0.6% out of the total value chain globally generated in 2026. One of the reasons for the inequality is that 99% of the value chain of coffee produced on the African continent is being captured abroad. Africa is operating at the low end of the supply chain as a green bean exporter. This is due to a number of factors that include lack of investment in the processing plants, technology, and low level of coffee consumption culture, among others. Promisingly, over the last 2 decades, domestic consumption has been an increasing trend in the continent. However, sadly, this demand has been served predominantly through the importation of processed coffee from abroad. This is optimal for Africa because it is increasing the import bill and making coffee consumption within Africa more expensive. Excellencies, there are 2 factors inhibiting the full implementation of the Inter-African Continental Free Trade Agreement, namely infrastructure and lack of investment in the value addition. For instance, Nigeria, with a population of 221 million, almost similar to Brazil, has a huge untapped market and could serve as African coffee. However, due to lack of adequate infrastructure, coffee exporters from East Africa to Nigeria by ship can take maybe more than 7 months. Another prime example in South Africa, which has huge potential for African coffee, but it imports primarily from Brazil and Europe. This is a trend in many of our African countries facing logistical and infrastructural barriers. Currently, it is quicker and easier for our producers to ship coffee to Europe, but sadly at a very cheap price. Excellencies, allow me to underscore the following key areas that need addressing to overcome some of these barriers. 1, there is a need for consensus from African leaders to support the adoption of coffee as a strategic crop in the AU's Agricultural Agenda 2063 as the next meeting of the AU in February 2024. 2, to capture the 99% of value addition, the G-25 African producing countries need a strategy to create public-private partnerships to fund and support investment in value addition and promote careers in the coffee sector through vocational trainings for the youth and women. 3, Africa has huge potential to increase production drastically. There are lessons to be learned and scaled up from countries that have successfully implemented their national initiatives and boosted production, like what is mentioned in Uganda by His Excellency the President. As part of our motto, Africa Solutions to Africa Problems, we have now enough experience and best practices that can be scaled up and shared with one another without going to other continents. 4, it is important that we harmonize coffee standards under the African Continental Free Trade Agreement framework in collaboration with the African Standard Organization and the African Union Digital Platform. Lastly, the flagship projects of the African Agenda 2063, such as the Single African Air Transport Market, works need to be accelerated. This is critical to accessing new markets and facilitating the African coffee producers to trade seamlessly within the continent. Excellencies, as the Inter-Africa Coffee Organization, we remain optimistic on the future growth of the coffee industry. There are abundant opportunities that need to be unlocked in Africa. We have the youngest population in the world, estimated at 700 million below the age of 30 years. Unemployment is driving our youth to take dangerous journeys to migrate to Europe, when we have huge potential to make Africa self-sufficient and create employment for the youth and empower women. Once again, I congratulate His Excellency President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni and all leaders gathered here today for their commitments to build a well-connected and integrated Africa for equitable and sustainable development. I thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. The chairman of the Inter-African Coffee Organization will continue to receive more brief statements. Her Excellency Saleh Work Zewedi, the President of the Federal Republic of Ethiopia, Your Excellency.
Your Excellency, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, Madam Vice President of Uganda, Your Excellency, my sister, Excellency, the Vice President of Tanzania, Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary of Kenya, my brother Musalia Mudavadi, the Chairman of the Inter-African Coffee Organization and Minister of Agriculture of Ethiopia, distinguished participants, my sister, the African Union Commissioner, Joseph Asako, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start by extending my heartfelt gratitude to the government and the people of Uganda for their warm welcome and well-known hospitality accorded to me and to my delegation since our arrival in Kampala. I'm here today because we strongly believe that our in-person presence and participation at this important summit convened by Uganda provide an opportunity to keep and accelerate the momentum and is unique opportunity also to deliberate on the many challenges facing the coffee sector in Africa and propose possible solutions. I'm here also because we believe, really strongly believe, in collective action for us to occupy our rightful space in the global market. Despite being one of the most traded commodities globally and consumed virtually by people of all cultures and religions around the globe, coffee didn't receive the proper attention it deserves compared to even some less traded commodities. While this is partly due to the weak bargaining power of the very producers, the poor farmers, it's in part due to the lack of strong organizations committed to work on behalf and for the benefit of the producers and exporters. Filling these serious gaps should be the aim and priority of the Inter-African Coffee Organization. I believe this second G-25 summit will encourage such a mandate. The poor farmers sweat to produce and supply best quality coffee to the international market. But it is the traders who decide the international coffee price in the absence of the producers or their rightful representation. The very producers are price takers and remain at the receiving end throughout the market chain. We all must work to end this market unfairness together. With just simple value addition, it's possible to increase the benefit of smallholder farmers and enable them to get fair share of their efforts. It is important to promote African coffee at the global market and invite and encourage international trading companies to support the producing farmers technically and financially. Although 25 countries of Africa produce coffee and 60% of their people's livelihood depend on this production, their contribution to the international market in value terms is really insignificant. Ethiopia, it's not just the origin of coffee. We are the birthplace of Arabica, as is Uganda for Robusta. It is the largest, best quality organic Arabica coffee producer and exporter in Africa, and among the top 5 producers in the world. With a number of distinct varieties and unique characteristics, coffee is the most consumed of our production locally and colorfully celebrated commodity in Ethiopia, with, of course, unique coffee making process. Coffee accounts the largest part of Ethiopia's export earnings of agricultural products and employs millions of direct and indirect jobs. Ethiopia has a potential of more than 1.2 million hectares of land for coffee growing, out of which more than 900,000 hectares have already been covered by coffee trees. To encourage investments in coffee, the government provides investors income tax exemption of up to 5 years. It is working to improve the farmers' production techniques through innovation and provision of improved inputs, as well as by minimizing the trading barriers resulting from extended coffee market chain led by unauthorized
to 82.5 thousand tons in 2022-23. Foreign exchange earnings from coffee exports nearly doubled from $235.6 million in 2022-23 compared with $123.2 million in 2018-19. Coffee cultivated area increased from 218,966 hectares in 2018-19 to 265,000 hectares in 22-23. Excellencies, as we convene here today, let us renew our commitment to the transformation of African coffee. First, let us embrace value addition as our guiding principle. And I therefore call upon governments and the private sector to direct more energy and resources to acquire modern coffee processing facilities, roasteries, and quality packaging. Second, I urge our farmers to increasingly adopt eco-friendly farming methods to ensure that our coffee industry leaves a positive footprint on both the environment and the people it touches. And third, I wish to remind the Secretariat of the Inter-African Coffee Organization to fast-track development of the Africa Coffee Center of Excellence in Tanzania, as already agreed. And I assure you that the Tanzania government will provide all the required support. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, I'm pleased to note that Tanzania will be hosting the third G-25 African Coffee Summit next year, 2024. And in that regard, on behalf of President Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, I wish to warmly welcome you to Tanzania for our next summit and continue with our journey to transform the coffee subsector. Together we can. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Excellency. A round of applause. We look forward to meeting you in Tanzania next year. Excellency Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya.
Your Excellency, Honorable Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, Your Excellency's Head of State and Government, the Chairman of the Inter-Africa Coffee Organization, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I first take this opportunity to sincerely thank you, Your Excellency, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, for hosting this very important summit. Equally, let me convey the salutations and solidarity of His Excellency President William Samoei Ruto to you and to the people of Uganda. It is gratifying and encouraging that the African community gathers here in Kampala to reflect on and celebrate the Africa coffee sector. Indeed, this summit is an affirmation of our collective commitment to support transformative reforms in our coffee sector. As African leaders, we also laud and commend initiatives under the Inter-African Coffee Organization of transforming the African coffee sector through value addition, a theme that resonates well with our aspirations. It is on this firm commitment that Kenya hosted the first G-25 African Coffee Summit in Nairobi from 25th to 27th May 2022, which was attended by 41 African countries. During the Nairobi Summit, the African coffee producing countries made the following declarations on the Africa coffee sector. First, to include coffee among the strategic agricultural commodities This will enable the continent to identify, formulate, and drive the implementation of policies and solutions for higher returns in the sector. Second, to support production and research, enhance transparency and traceability of origins, encourage youth employment and empowerment of women, allocate more land for coffee production, incentivize farmers, support coffee research, and offer technical assistance to farmers. Third, to enhance access to finance through government-backed schemes, African Coffee Facility Fund, and support for the African Export-Import Bank, AfriExim, the African Development Bank, and the African Union. And fourth, to address value addition and domestic consumption by opening up domestic markets and share knowledge on the health benefits of coffee and investment in value addition. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, coffee is an important export commodity for many African countries and has the potential of unlocking the continent's prosperity, foster inclusive growth, boost economic growth, and lead to rapid transformation of the continent. Your Excellency, let me echo some of your statistics. African coffee accounts for about 12% of the world's coffee production, making it the second largest, most traded commodity in Africa after oil. In the year 2021-2022, for example, Africa's coffee production registered a dismal performance of 19.27 million bags of coffee, compared to a global production of 167.2 million bags in the same period. This is a paltry 11.5% against a potential of 40% attributable to Africa's comparative advantage in land acreage, rainfall, and fertile soils. As a continent, we must develop appropriate strategies to reverse this negative trend and reclaim our position on the global coffee platform. Ladies and gentlemen, domestic consumption of coffee, of African coffee, remains dismal. Africa consumes less than 10% of our value-added coffee, while consumption of imported coffee is on the increase. At the same time, Africa is a net importer of about 12 million bags of coffee, much of which is value-added. Paradoxically, Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, Africa exports 11 million bags, mainly raw coffee, and imports more value-added coffee. In the process, the continent loses much on job creation, foreign exchange, to mention but a few. In the Kenyan context, coffee is grown in 33 counties out of a total of 47 counties by an estimated 800,000 smallholder growers aggregated into 590 cooperative societies and 2,700 coffee estates with a total acreage of 109,000 hectares dedicated to coffee production. Kenya recognizes the strategic role the coffee subsector plays towards the country's economic growth and vertical integration. Specifically, coffee is a major source of employment, poverty alleviation, food security, foreign exchange, and generally contributes to the livelihood of many Kenyans and is estimated to support directly and indirectly over 5 million Kenyans along the coffee value chain. Kenya pledges for sustainable development to prioritize agriculture as one of the top 6 pillars in the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto, where all cash crop production is nationalized with compensation of farmers. Cognizance of this, Kenya has prioritized coffee as one of the quick turnaround key subsectors in our economic development model, popularly known as the bottom-up economic transformative agenda, BETTER, as espoused in the Kenya Kwanza Government Manifesto for 2022 to 2027. Looking at the historical performance, the coffee subsector attained remarkable growth soon after independence, leading to the growth of an all-time high production of 130,000 metric tons in 1987-1988 during the famous coffee boom. Currently, coffee production has been declining due to challenges such as climate change vagaries, perennial price volatility, market access, and low domestic consumption, among others. The decline in production has adversely affected farmers' earnings and their livelihoods. Your Excellencies, Kenya has come up with various initiatives to reverse the declining performance of the coffee sector. The initiatives include e-voucher fertilizer input subsidy program for coffee farmers, rollout of the coffee revitalization program, establishment of the Cherry Advanced Revolving Fund, coffee credit financing through the establishment of Commodities Fund to provide affordable finance credit for coffee farming and other agricultural produce, as well as review of the subsector's legislation. I am convinced that these reform initiatives will bear fruit by increasing Kenya's coffee production from the current 51,000 metric tons realized in 2021-2022 to 100,000 metric tons by the year 2025, thereby contributing to an increase in Africa's coffee production globally. The African Continental Free Trade Area provides opportunities for the acceleration of the inter-African trade. We must therefore take advantage of this vast market potential for Africa by promoting domestic consumption of and boosting African-grown coffee, besides boosting trade position in the global market. Kenya is a good